Under the cloak of darkness, at midnight, the Republicans in the House, by one vote, passed the most draconian budget bill, if you can call it that, this country has ever seen. It is going to add trillions of dollars to the deficit, trillions of dollars to the deficit. It is going to hurt middle America, working class America, poor America. But there's one group that is laughing all the way to the bank, and that is the rich. I don't think that there has ever been a time in our country where oligarchy was cemented more than right now. What's happening is obscene. And instead of it being talked about in the media as a win for this group and a loss for this group and the bullshit horse races that they love to cover, what they should be discussing is this being the greatest heist of American wealth we've ever seen. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show, dear friends. Buckle up, because there is a lot to get into with this big, beautiful bullshit bill. Let's get into it. Welcome, dear friends, to the Danielle Moodie Show. It has been quite a fucking week, hasn't it? I mean, my God, the acceptance by this administration to take a bribe worth $400 million from Qatar, the open season on middle America and trans people through a midnight heist that Republicans engaged in order to pass Donald Trump's big bullshit budget bill. It's been a week. So I know if you're like me, like I had just finished putting together this show and I said to myself, God, I am exhausted. So know that if you, like me, are just kind of hanging on, know that you are not alone. So let's jump in. Republicans pass strictest Medicaid work requirement they've ever put forward. A new hurdle for poor Americans, because they need new hurdles, approved by the House, would cause millions to lose coverage, including many who are working but can't meet reporting rules. The work requirement in the bill that just passed the House by one vote represents the strictest version Republicans in Congress have ever put forward. The reporting requirements are more stringent than in previous bills. It would be easier to lose benefits and harder to re-enroll. And it would apply to a larger set of Medicaid recipients, including Americans previously determined to be too old to need such requirements. So, I was reading this and I'm thinking to myself, do you remember during COVID where Republican governors, members of Congress were getting on TV as we were learning about who was most vulnerable to COVID and that it was the elderly? And basically, they said on national television that older people just need to die in order for younger people, their grandkids, to be able to work. They should see it as a service to younger generations. I shit you not. So when I look at this and I think to myself, about these older Americans who they are surviving on Medicaid. And now this administration just said, hey, you 80-year-old, get off your ass and go get a job. Because I'm just curious, who the fuck is hiring elderly people to do anything? I mean, if you're in your 50s or 60s, right, and you're not already like solidified in your job and position, like, do you feel confident in this job market that people look at your age and say, like, this is a good bet because they want younger, cheaper workers? So if Medicaid has been allowing you to hang on, the Republicans just gave you the middle finger. And I keep thinking about the ripple effects of this damaged bill and what it's going to do to this country. I talk to you guys often about Octavia Butler. I talk to you often about Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents and what America had become because a MAGA president whose literal phrase in the story was "Make America Great Again" was a white nationalist, Christian nationalist, cut all social safety nets. The crime rate was through the roof. You could no longer rely on police unless you paid them off. People lived inside of walled off communities until that no longer held. Disease was rampant. And all Octavia Butler did was project 30 years into the future, a future that we are currently living inside of. And I'm telling you, some days I am just stunned that tens of millions of Americans voted for this to destroy the planet, to destroy the workforce, to add an ungodly amount of debt, to accelerate a brain drain, to create an economic vacuum that China is about to fill with green energy and innovation. All of this being done so that 800 billionaires could hold on to more money. We need a new fucking word for greed and depraved, because what these people are doesn't like I need deeper words for people to really understand how devoid these people truly are of empathy, of sympathy, just soulless ghouls. To think that, like, there was a picture that I saw today. I'm going to get back to this in a moment. There was a picture that I saw today of Jeff Bezos and his blow up doll of a fiance on his super yacht that somebody had wrote a story about. The super yacht, this fucking schooner, this boat is so big that it has another yacht that follows it, so that his helipad is on that one and they have all of their, jet skis and all of this stuff on it. And the person that did the story was saying that Lauren Chavez is about to receive an environmental award. Meanwhile, she's riding on not one, but two super yachts that put out as much toxin as 1,500 cars in a day. But she Sanchez, excuse me, thank you. But she is getting an environmental award. For what? You can't make this shit up. I honestly think that, like, The Onion may have been put out of business. So, only, folks, only two Republicans, according to the New Republic, were brave enough to vote against Medicaid cuts. Two. After hours of deliberation, the bill passed 2015 to 215 to 2014 to 214. I am so tired. To 214. Two Republicans sided with the Democrats. An incredibly slim margin that highlights the lack of political cohesion within the GOP. Two Republican representatives, Thomas Macy of Kentucky and Warren Davidson of Ohio, voted with Democrats. There was also a video today, and I don't know who the member was. It was a woman. Republican was asking her about voting to cut Medicaid for her constituents. And that woman was running down the hall away from the reporter, like running. I'm like, how are you going? Like, do you really think that you're just going to be able to run from your constituents? This is what I'm saying. These people should not be able to live and exist comfortably. They should be heckled. They should be grilled. They should be left to sit in their houses with the shutters closed because people are on their front lawns demanding for them to answer questions as to why they're so in the pocket for the rich and why they have voted to cut jobs, SNAP benefits, literally take food out of the mouths of children in order to fuel Jeff Bezos' super yacht. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So they go on and they say the bill will include even more funding for the military, right? The military that Donald Trump is going to be weaponizing against the citizens of this country. More funding for Trump's border crackdown, aka sending people without due process to South Sudan, Libya, El Salvador, to gulags to die for no other reason than being brown and existing in this country, while slashing programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP, and also, which we'll get into, repealing clean energy credits put in place by the Biden administration. Up to 15 million Americans will be uninsured by 2034 due to the bill's cuts, and 7.6 million will be at risk of losing Medicaid, according to estimates from the Congressional Budget Office. So I want to unpack for a moment the rollback in clean energy and what that is actually going to cost America. Trump's tax bill to cost 830,000 jobs. That is nearly 1 million jobs. They're supposed to be all about the fucking job creation, all about the economy. And Republicans just voted for a bill that will cost 830,000 jobs. They should not be able to show their fucking faces in their districts. Do you understand? They should not be able to walk free and sit down and eat at restaurants without being heckled and fucking shamed for what they are doing. And it will drive up bills and pollution emissions, experts warn. Bill will unleash millions more tons of planet heating pollution and couldn't come at a worse time. So, people who, through the Inflation Reduction Act and through Biden's Infrastructure Act, which was tied around creating green jobs, which guess whose districts were benefiting from that? Largely Republican districts, in retrofitting buildings, right? Creating green innovation, building wind turbines, putting up solar panels, etc. All of this was coming with what? Workers, job creation, skill building. Donald Trump and MAGA just said, fuck it. Who cares? Under the reconciliation bill, this is according to The Guardian, tax credits for cleaner cars will end this year, with incentives for wind, solar, and even nuclear energy projects scaled down and then eliminated by 2032. Clean energy manufacturing tax credits will be axed by 2031, while Americans seeking to upgrade their homes to cleaner or more energy efficient appliances will get no further subsidy after the end of this year. Quote, this bill is worse than what people envisioned. It pulls the rug out from facilities banking on these incentives. It raises everyday household costs by hundreds of dollars and undercuts any sort of action on climate change, said Robbie Orvis, senior director at Energy Innovation, a nonpartisan climate think tank. This is the future that we can expect. This is what America will look like in just a couple of years. So while other countries will now move into the vacuum that America has created, building green energy efficient cars, homes, scaling up innovation, everyone else in the world has eyes on the future. MAGA's eyes are in the back of their fucking head, pulling us back to the 19th century, to the Industrial Revolution, where they think that they're going to make coal great again. All they're going to do at a time of pulling back on Medicaid and Medicare, taking food out of the mouths of children, adding more pollution to the environment, which guess what? Is going to cause more disease that guess what? Isn't going to be covered under insurance, which means more people are going to die. And I am not being hyperbolic. There was a time when rivers and lakes in this country were on fire because of the contents of their pollution. I try so hard to understand how people willingly voted for this. Go on. Since the passage of the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, more than $320 billion has flowed mostly, guess what, to Republican-held districts in the form of new clean energy development and electric car construction. A further $522 billion in investment is in the pipeline, but is now menaced by the Republicans' bill's removal of tax incentives. Quote, you're taking about $500 billion of investment at risk from these changes, said Orvis. Over 10 years, we found that these changes would reduce U.S. GDP by over $1 trillion. Instead, MAGA just voted to ensure that we get sicker. Poor, sick, undereducated. That's what fascism needs in order to control you. And this bill is literally like a fucking nail in the coffin of America. We will not recover from this. It's honestly, there are days where I'm like, whatever. Oh, fuck them, blah, 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 blah. And I move on about my day. Today is not one of those days. Sometimes registering the evil, the cruelty that these people have is really hard for my heart to take. Truly. I've been talking about this all week on Substack with Jared Yates Sexton, and today with my friend Jonathan Metzl, the author of Dying of Whiteness and How We Got Here and What We've Become. And this is why I continue to talk about nervous system management, because it is really hard to wrap your mind around the level of pain these people are willing to extol on their fellow citizens and laugh about it and joke about it. That hurting people is where they find their joy sickens me to my core. Not everybody is currently happy, though. As David Gura posts on Blue Sky, if treasuries continue to stay queasy, the higher yields not only threaten to dampen economic growth, because we're also going to be accelerating ourselves into basically either recession, stagflation, or a Great Depression. I like, and somebody in the comments just said, we won't be here by 2032 when these horrible anti-energy policies take place. And like, I can't say that you're wrong. So they threaten to dampen economic growth as they translate into higher borrowing costs for everything from homes to cars, but to accelerate the government's fiscal deterioration. As rates rise, so does the Treasury's interest bill. Trump's next hurdle? The bond market hates his beautiful tax bill. So not only are we ensuring that Americans get sicker, that our environment and climate crisis worsens, that people won't have access to health care. Oh, inside of this horrific bill that they jammed through at midnight, they also ensured that trans people will not be able to use Medicaid or Medicare for their health needs. So when I say that you are going to ensure that people die, this is the type of shit that I'm talking about. Care, transgender health care is life-saving care. And they just told trans people, we don't care whether you live or die. They just told your 80-year-old parents or grandparents, we don't care if you live or die. Get off your ass and go work for these benefits. And you know what I realize with polling and numbers like this that say there is not a single congressional district in the US where more than 15% of voters support cuts to SNAP, the federal program that provides food assistance to millions of low-income families. There is no district that gets more than 15% of votes. But what difference does it make? Because when I think about this, right, almost 90% of Americans believe in gun safety. But we still have mass shootings on a regular fucking basis because guess what? The politicians that are in charge could give a shit what the people of this country want or think. They only care what the NRA says that they should do so that they can pocket more money. So you look at this and you say, oh, well, this is not what the people want. But by voting for Donald Trump or not voting at all, you voted for this. Right now, I'm sitting in my apartment in New York. It feels like it's 40 something fucking degrees outside. It's May 22nd because there is an unusual, according to headlines, nor'easter that's going to be hitting New England, bringing snow and sleet and rain down here for us in New York with colder than normal temperatures. Right now, I have the heat on, which is costing me money. So when we say and talk about the ways in which climate change is costing people, because it's going to require you to have your heat on longer or your air conditioner on longer, and your electric bills, your utility bills will go through the fucking roof. But the incentives that people were once getting who own homes, even landlords that own buildings, to get them up to grade for energy efficiency and receive subsidies for that, get better windows, better insulation, etc., now won't receive that. But you're going to receive a higher utility bill. On top of which, but at least the rich will continue to get richer, and at least corporations will continue to, pay their CEOs and their shareholders out the ass because Judd Legum and Rebecca Crosby put together a piece that said 11 corporations that turned their backs on hungry families. The tax cuts overwhelmingly benefit the wealthy. Meanwhile, the poorest Americans will see their after-tax income, they write, decrease. In 2026, for example, the bottom quintile of earners will see a 10% reduction in after-tax income, while the top 0.1% will receive a windfall of $389,280. Millions of Americans will lose their health insurance. At least 7.7 million Americans, as I stated, will lose their health insurance due to funding cuts and increased bureaucracy, impacting Medicaid and the ACA health exchange. Another 4.2 million will lose coverage due to the expiration of enhanced ACA subsidies put into place during the pandemic. The legislation will add 3.3 trillion to the deficit by 2034. according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. In addition to the tax cuts, the bill also features additional spending on the military and immigration enforcement. You want to take a look at the companies that are all rah, rah, rah for Donald Trump's big bullshit budget bill? Here are the major corporations that have spent years touting their efforts to combat hunger in America, but now publicly support a $300 billion SNAP cut. AT&T, T-Mobile, United Airlines, Uber, Comcast, Charter Communications, Verizon, Delta Airlines, Dell, FedEx, Southwest Airlines. You can't make this up. And meanwhile, while we won't even have 2 pennies to rub together, because did you hear the latest news? They're getting rid of the pennies. Well, I don't know what we'll rub together. I guess sticks to create heat. You want to know what Donald Trump is doing today, tonight, right now? He's hosting a billionaire's dinner at a golf club outside of DC for a contest he ran for people who jumped on buying his Trump meme coin. When the bobblehead press secretary was asked today, is there going to be a list of the names at Donald Trump's event so people know who is paying this outlandish per plate price to have access to the president of the United States? Her response was, he's doing it in his private capacity. What private capacity do you have when you are currently president of the United States? I'm just curious. What private capacity? You're the president of the United States. And so she said, he's doing it in his private capacity. The reporter followed up and said, that's not what I asked. I asked whether or not we're going to see who is at this dinner having access to the president, because we know that this motherfucker is, right, just taking bribes right out in the open. So much so that the South African president, Ramaphosa, said, so sorry, I don't have a plane to offer you, yesterday when he was in the tacky-ass Oval Office. Rolling Stone writes, Trump thinks it was stupid not to take cash in harder on his first term. He's making up for it. As the president mixes public service with personal profit, or just, grifting and stealing from the American people and putting money into his own pocket, he's making the world safe for corruption. Dickinson and Susang write. Trump will host a gathering of VIPs at his private golf resort outside Washington, D.C. tonight. These are not diplomats or heads of state. These are rich people, foreign and domestic, who have put money into the Trump family's pockets. The dinner is for winners of a contest, the crypto traders who race to become the top 220 holders of Trump's meme coin. According to one analysis, they collectively accumulated about $150 million of the crypto asset, which has no intrinsic value and is equivalent to a digital baseball card. Trump himself has privately said this on multiple occasions in recent months and years, that, he's open to the grift. According to 2 people who've been in the room with him in moments of casual banter, Trump has mentioned that it was stupid of other Republicans and advisors to convince him, at least on occasion, to side with government ethicists who cautioned him from obliterating the line between public good and private gain. And I don't know if you all remember this, but I think it was either last week or the week before, but time is of no consequence to me. It's like just one big black hole these days, where bobblehead Barbie up at the White House press secretary desk talking about, do you know how much Donald Trump gave up in order to become president? He's a wealthy man, but he put the needs of the public first and ran for office. He could be off anywhere, making tons of money, anywhere like a few feet away from the fucking White House. The lies. The lies. Trump says such things often enough that he can't help himself from repeating some of it in public, including recently about the proposed gift of a $400 million 747 jumbo jet Sky Palace from the government of Qatar. I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer, the president told the press at the White House in mid-May. I mean, I could be a stupid person saying, "No, we don't want a free, very expensive plane." As Rolling Stone previously reported, Trump often does not distinguish between what's his, right? Like the documents he kept in his tacky golden shitter that the National Archives asked for back, and actually what belongs to the people or its government, including when it comes to this plane, which he privately refers to as one of my new planes. So, can somebody explain to me why the fuck then corporate mainstream media had headlines like America accepts new luxury plane when America didn't accept shit? Donald Trump accepted it. And it's going to go into his presidential library filled with what? Empty Coke cans and Heinz ketchup bottles? Because that bitch don't read. To anyone holding fast to the bedrock norms of public service, Trump's self-dealing is appalling. Quote, "The situation should be revolting to anybody who cares about the American interest," says Norm Eisen, a good government champion who now directs the Democracy Defenders Fund. "It's damaging to the country when people give you a $400 million plane or a $2 billion investment or buy your meme coins in large amounts to have dinner with you and visit the White House. They expect something in return." That's the thing. Nothing is ever free. There is always a cost, right? There is always, always, always a cost. The fact is that Hillary Clinton told us, Kamala Harris told us, Joe Biden told us. Donald Trump can be bought. So when a reporter says, "Are we going to see the list of people who are at this dinner so that we can do some background checks and understand who Donald Trump is letting into our White House, who he's showing classified documents to, because, you know, they paid for the access." Somebody said in the comments, "I'm so embarrassed." And that's honestly the perfect word. I have never been more embarrassed and ashamed to be an American than I am right now. I did an interview on my other podcast, As the World Churns, that will be up tonight at midnight. And I interviewed um, a behavioral scientist, a doctor, on what we can expect in terms of the climate rollbacks. And she tells this story about traveling around the world, going to different conferences lately, just doing anything basically to talk about what's happening in America. And she was at a restaurant, and the waitress, she's abroad, the waitress asks her, "Where are you from?" And she says, "America." And the waitress says to her, she asked the waitress, "Where are you from?" She said, "Russia." And the waitress responded and said, "Welcome to the club." The woman said, "What do you mean by that? Welcome to the club?" And she said, "Because the world hates America just as much as they hate Russia right now." Y'all got to listen to that interview. Listen to that interview on As the World Churns. Check it out because it was so good. And I just was, yes, like, like Lisa just, ouch. Like my face was like a gut punch. Welcome to the club. And so I continue to say that what is America's future? America doesn't have a future, I don't think, under Trumpism. I think that America is going to look more like current day Russia in about a year than any of our former allies. I think that this country will be broke. I think that millions of people will be unemployed. I think that we are going to see crime rates go up because there are no social safety nets. I think that more people will get sick. I think that disease will spread and there'll be no vaccines. I don't know where parents are sending their kids to school only to recite that Donald Trump is great and he won the 2020 presidential election, because that's being put into curriculum. But they're also gutting public education. And currently, the Supreme Court blocked the ability to use state funds for the building of religious schools, because that's what they really want, so that they can bring back corporal punishment and put girls and boys in their places. There is no part of me that believes that this bill isn't going to pass the Senate. There are Republicans that are in the Senate right now that said this bill is going to get a beautiful rewrite to soften some of the harsh energy language, to soften some of the harsh Medicaid language. But to be honest, do we have any faith that if you got two Republicans in the House to side with Democrats, that you're going to get any in the Senate? I mean, Donald Trump was on Capitol Hill earlier this week threatening people, telling them that if they don't back this bill, they won't be Republicans for, quote, much longer. I don't know if you are praying people, meditative people, or what have you, but my God, do we need some type of miracle? Because I believe they're talking about 2032 and rollbacks and this, that, and the other thing. I do not believe that we're going to see that America's going to hold on until then. Do you understand? Like, I don't believe it. You are making this country ripe for revolution. Because there's only so much people can take. There's only so much oppression. There's only so much pressure. There's only so much that you can take from people. So Democrats sitting around waiting on midterms in 2026. Good luck. But I'm telling you, I've said this before, and I actually said it today. My interview with Jonathan Metzl is up now on my Substack. And again, if you're not a subscriber over there, please do consider checking out the Damn Digest over on my Substack. Again, I do not make anything, nothing is behind a paywall. But if you have the ability to support and become a paid subscriber, I deeply appreciate it. So everything is free. You can become a subscriber. But Jonathan, I said to him today, I asked him, do you think that we've experienced enough collective pain for people to finally wake up? Or is this bill going to need to pass? People literally end up out on the streets, sick, starving, for the collective to take action. And I know that 5501, they are holding marches as a protest coming in June 14th, right? And they're trying to reach that threshold, right, of I think 3% of the population, because it only takes 3.5%. I don't know where they get the math from, but 3.5% of the population, according to 5501, to push back against fascism and oligarchy. The pain is the point, but is the pain, could it lead to our possible salvation? I don't know. I'm just spitballing. Again, I believed that COVID could have been a moment with the right president where we understood the value of community and that was lifted up. And people were, we talked about it. If we had, again, the right leadership, that could have been our great coming together as a country, because no one was safe from COVID. It was taking the rich, it was taking the poor, it was taking Black, it was taking white. But because we had Donald Trump, it turned into the most divisive issue. And because of that, 1 million people died that we don't even talk about, that we don't even honor by remembering them, by remembering that time. We just pretend it didn't happen. And because of that, our communities have become more fractious than they were before. So I will say this as I close out for today's call to action. And for those of you that are new here on Thursdays, I do a call to action. And it's not even my call to action, it's Hillary Clinton's. Hillary Clinton had posted on social media, on her Instagram and on, X and other places. She wrote this: overnight, House Republicans passed a budget that would give huge tax breaks to the ultra wealthy at the expense of everyone else. Now it's on to the Senate. Call your senators and demand they do everything in their power to stop this theft. There is the number. Write it down, put it into your phones. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. My call to action to all of you is to call your senators. Wherever you are, I don't care if you're in red states and you're like, oh, they don't listen, blah, blah. Call your senators and tell them that this bill is going to cost people their lives. Tell them how it is going to hurt you and your family. Thank you, Susan, for putting this up. You can also use 5 calls. They give you a script to follow. So there is the website, 5calls.org, if you don't know what to say. But please, please make the call. That is it, my dear friends, today on the Danielle Moodie Show. I appreciate each and every single one of you who have shown up, who continue to show up here. And, you know, for those that are providing super stickers and super thanks, I cannot thank you enough. Valerie, $99.99. My God, thank you so very much. Electron Creations, $1.49. Appreciate every single dollar that comes through. Margaret Saraco, $9.99. Thank you so very much. And Barbie Halliday, appreciate you for your offering today. I can't thank you all enough. I know that it's hard and I know that it is overwhelming. And I know that there are some days, thank you, Price Brown, so much, 1999. There are some days when we just want to give up. But I tell you that the more that we can be in community together, the more that we can have these conversations, the more that we can build community here, online and in real life, the better we will be able to tackle this. The better we will be able to move forward, not as individuals, but as a collective. So think about, what are you doing over this holiday weekend to tend to nervous system management, right? What are you doing to nourish yourself? How are you spending your energy? Thank you, Lorraine, for $5. Please take good care of yourself and each other. I will be back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, with Wajahat Ali for Democracy-ish. Folks, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern. And I have some fun content and videos that I'm going to be putting up over the weekend, the holiday weekend. So do check those out as well. See you back here Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well, y'all.